Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McLemore.
All right. Good evening and welcome to WSBI, your Resource for Success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring entrepreneurs and women-owned businesses from across the country. I am your host, Kimberly McLemore. Tonight is a special edition show. With us, we have Richmond Punch, Violinist Extraordinaire. Richmond is a violin virtuoso who delivers a riveting, dynamic, explosive, and powerful performance. Dallas's own, he graduated from Booker T. Washington High School and the Juilliard School of Music, earning his master's degree from Yale University. His business specializes in live violin music for all, such as corporate events, concerts, festivals, weddings, and worship. Mr. Punch recently performed in Havana, Cancun, Los Angeles, and Cabo, San Lucas, has delighted and dazzled audiences from Atlanta to Anchorage, Las Vegas to New York, and everywhere in between. So without further ado, please help me welcome to my platform, Mr. Richmond Punch. Hey, Richmond, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for having me.
Well, it is my pleasure, and I've been excited. You know, most people don't know that we're, in the background, we talked before the show, so we've been going at it, and I've just been really, really excited to have him. It's been more than a year that I think we've been trying to touch bases, and now that you're here, I'm looking forward to hearing your story, and I'm sure my listeners are as well, and then at the end, we're going to have a treat for everybody, so why don't we just get this thing rock and rolling? So, Richmond, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit more about who Richmond Punch is?
Yes, ma'am. Just yesterday, actually, I had a very good conversation with a friend to update my mission so that I've heard that one of the most important things is to have a mission. So I can tell you an updated version, very much so, of who I am. I'm a product of public schools in Dallas, Texas, and I started the violin when I was 5 years old, and was able to go to arts high school, which is called Booker T. Washington High School for the Performing and Visual Arts. Mm-hmm. Through training during school, on the weekends, and during the summer, basically year-round, I started with practice and eventually got scholarships, which allowed me for more skills, which allow for private lessons, and I was able to get into the arts high school and eventually to Juilliard as my undergraduate, and Yale University was my graduate school for a master's of music.
Wow. So you have been playing since you were 5, but what really inspired you, at 5 years old, to know that that's what you wanted to do?
It was the sound of the instrument was really appealing in terms of the school sat us down in a concert, and for a public school to do that, it was really quite a feat. And they gave us the opportunity to choose the instrument based on the sound. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And that is interesting because normally at that young age, it's usually, the parents, kind of pushing the kids into, maybe playing music and doing something, or either singing and so forth. So to hear that type of a program, that is definitely unheard of in most communities. And for you to have that distinctive ear, that to me is very interesting, that the sound is what brought you to that. So you've been playing since 5, and obviously you've grown and done so many things in between that. But let's talk about some of the challenges that you may have had along the way and why you decided to stick with it.
Sure. Along the way, there was, of course, the challenge of growing up in a single-parent home. There was the challenge of, really being able to learn. There were many times when I picked up the instrument and I didn't make, a pleasant sound. I didn't know whether it would really, work for me in a career. There was definitely that point because initially I wanted to thought about studying engineering and music because, of what would my life look like in terms of a career. And but I was in New York City during part of that time while I was figuring that out. So it was a town that really welcomed the arts, and the level of the arts was so high that I had no reservations, but to believe, the greatest achievement is possible.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because when I'm hearing you tell your story, and then after even reviewing everything, that I don't know too many people have gone to Juilliard School of Music. So talk about that experience. It had to be a very powerful, emotional time for you to be able to be a part of Juilliard.
Yes, indeed. Juilliard in New York City really helped change my career. The experiences I had there, one in particular, comes from my own roommate in college who studied with Wynton Marsalis, mm-hmm. and my after school discoveries of jazz, and my hearing jazz also throughout my time at Juilliard is one of the things that really helped shape who I am. I also was able to experience my first entrepreneurship, basically, and it was actually performing in the subways. Performing in the subways, and there were gigs as well in New York City, but performing in the subways, I would go to the subway like it was a job, mm-hmm. and have routine, and I would go after school and I would play, and it was great. I learned about how to run a business, in some ways that carried me to where I am now.
Right. And it's amazing how you learned it from being in the subway. And so talk about those steps of running that type of a business, because you're in a completely different industry than most people that I have ever spoken to or actually have even interviewed on this show. As a matter of fact, when we were talking earlier, I told you that you were actually my very first artist and musician on the show. And so what a lot of people don't understand is that no matter what business we're in, business is business. And even though you have an expertise in your field, talk about what it means to be in this type of industry. Yes, well,
music, there's being an entertainer. There's kind of two major things to look at. Being an entertainer, which is I'm great and honored to say that I'm able to do that. And then there's the thing that is the sustaining element or the longevity. And so a lot of times that is achieved by, just like in business, by sales, by sales, what we call, Rick Ross, I heard you once refer to it as sales in my sleep. Mm-hmm. If your music, even a musician, your product can sell 24 hours a day. And then there's what products you create besides CDs, T-shirts, things like that. Mm-hmm. And there's also, I'm trying to think of entrepreneurship. There's speaking, there's guest appearances at colleges, universities, and there is what I just did yesterday. It took me about 1 or 2 weeks, but I signed up for CJ for affiliate marketing, so that on my website I can have other advertisers like Samsung, mm-hmm. Different companies like that, pay me for place within my website or my social or any of my networks that can sell. So I feel like a lot more than a musician.
Okay. So, but in your business now, you're obviously a solo artist and so forth, but do you have any management that helps you, with your gigs and, and signing you up and getting you some of those additional speaking engagements and so forth?
Yes. Well, a lot of my career, my business has been self-run. I figured out these things myself, mm-hmm. Self-taught in those elements. But I did sign with management, which I do have, before I moved to Atlanta, which was March 1st, which was just a couple of weeks before COVID hit.
Right. Okay.
So I signed to a manager then, mm-hmm. although, and the only thing there is it wasn't the easiest time to sign with a manager and then, expect a tour and then get a COVID cancellation, So, but I'm really excited with everything that's going on, and my business has continued to grow.
Yeah, you're right. And being that, we've had this pandemic going on. So talk about how you have to be versatile and what you've been doing because, you weren't able to go out and do the tour. Give some insight on how that was working for you.
Sure. Well, one of the things, there are two different things I came up with. First, I like everyone else, I watched the news when COVID arrived, okay, when the shutdowns arrived. So I was watching the news and social media very closely because I want to know what are the best in the industry. They're not sleeping on success, okay? They're doing something. I wanted to see what they were doing. And so I noticed DJ D Nice. He came out with a club quarantine, and he went viral for DJing. Which was very, very early on during the COVID. That was occurring. And then I would look at artists like Tony Terry as well. He went out with his mask and actually he was like, I think he was working out in a park and randomly ran into a couple that was getting married and stopped and asked them if he could bless their wedding and then ran somewhere to get his speaker and came back and performed on the spot.
Wow.
So there's so many things to learn and discover, like that. Like you wouldn't imagine that. First of all, Tony Terry, A-lister,
Right,
and
exactly.
And I'm trying to figure out, where's my creativity. Rise. I'm a violinist. I like to street perform. The audience is not everywhere, but a lot of people were in the parks. So let me tell you what I started. I started. I did do public performances. Remember in Italy when they started applauding first responders?
Yes.
So that was the first thing. So I did one of those appearances. I performed from my balcony, classical music, different songs like that, different styles. That was the first thing I did. And then I went into downtown or midtown Atlanta and performed a concert like that where they had the applause at 9 p.m. And so that was a great success. And it was also, I was able to be safe while doing it. And then Black Lives Matter came at a heightened level because of the shootings and killings of Black people, unarmed people, all kinds of, like that. And so I was like, I shifted that energy. You have to be able to shift, I feel, a lot of times in success. So I shifted to the cause of what now my current mission, which is Strings for Justice. And so I just yesterday, actually, originally I had a hashtag, and I used a hashtag for a lot of this. That was called King of Quarantine Strings. And the new one is called Strings for Justice. Because I went out during... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, yeah. So I went out after Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed, and George Floyd. And then I went to the Wendy's after Rayshard Brooks. And then... And I was doing Strings for Justice without really having the mission at that point. And it goes way back. I've been doing that since even before Botham Jean. And during Botham Jean time, Botham Jean was shot and killed in Dallas. So I've been doing that a long time. And so I realized that's Strings for Justice. So anyway, I got to... it accumulated in a viral performance that I did at Rayshard Brooks viewing.
Wow. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, go ahead.
I guess what I'm thinking is that, being that we are definitely still in a pandemic, that people have definitely had to be versatile. Like you said, you have to think outside the box and not do the norm. But even when we don't think it's the norm, like you said, you've been doing this for years and not really knowing or calling it what it really was. And now that you have changed those dynamics, and I've also seen you do some virtual as well. So you still continue to do that, correct?
Yes. My King of Quarantine Strings was born from my very much at-home concerts. 80% of things are at home. I have a backdrop, simple, whatever I could do, figure out Zoom and Restream and figure out sound systems,
right?
And make it work. And sometimes even record the performances because they can be shown in video, and of course probably 80-90% live. And matter of fact, I just did music right now, a 1.5 hour performance, linked video for a funeral.
Oh wow.
For a funeral that will be on Saturday. And I sometimes when you want the music and heighten, I didn't want to perform it live because, I want the quality to be at its peak, for the feeling of the service. So I put on my best suit and I played all the way through so that everything still feels like it's live.
Right. But, that's the key though, is that, because we have to have this flexibility and we have to use the technology that we need to use today, it's really teaching people to understand that you don't always have to be in the same room in order to be successful at what you're doing. And you're proving that. And like I said, you're learning that, all the different steps that you've had to take in order to stay out there, because obviously being a musician and an artist, you can't stop just because something has made the world stop to some degree. You have to continually be out there so that people can remember your name and what you do as an artist, and you need to stay relevant, and I think that's important. So talk about some of the different type of music that you do. I know that you have CDs and music out there, but tell the listeners what the type of music you actually play.
Yes, so I'm probably classified as a jazz violinist, but what I do is a little bit more of the definition of jazz, which is improvisation in music, right? That's actually more of my actual style. But I can't say to people I'm an improviser or I play every style in the world. They will still come back and ask you, because everybody needs to have a specificity. They'll ask you, what do you do? So jazz is what I tell, is that term I use. But okay. I mean, I'm playing in 1 week, I'm playing Latin jazz, country, pop rock, hip hop. I'm playing world music. I'm playing classical. Just about every week I'm playing all those styles.
Wow. Well, I've definitely heard some of your music, and I just love the tone. And I know when we were trying to reach out to each other latter part of last year, I was like, I got to have this man on my show because I want people to see that there's more than just, it's not just about the singing. It's not about just sitting behind the desk. There's so much more involved in life and what your capabilities are. And you have definitely taken the proper steps. You've gone through all these amazing schools of music, and then here you had your degrees in Yale and so forth. So your music is not just about playing by ear and about just being on the streets. You have truly involved and put in the time and the effort that you need to have in order to be the violinist that you are. So if you had the opportunity to teach, or do you have any programs where you're actually teaching other young people about what it means to be a violinist?
Yeah, so one of the things I've been doing is, first of all, is virtual lessons. And for a while, for sure, during the quarantine, especially, I had, some virtual students, and I'm still always looking for additional students. The virtual lessons have been a great success. Like the fact that you can teach someone without being there to hold and adjust and to, and hands-on, things. You don't need those things. If you can convey the message and the teachings in video, it's really effective. So I've been doing those lessons, and I have recordings like from my Zoom lessons. So I, using Zoom or Skype to do those lessons, but also through Strings for Justice, I am foreseeing what I've foreseen for a long time now, starting a nonprofit under for that, Strings for Justice. So it would bring more music to youth and to adults, but it would also serve the cause that builds equality and humanity. And so, that could pertain, of course, heavily to Black Lives Matter, but just causes, but it would also pertain to mental health, which is, are all the parts of the things that are discussed as it pertains to the treatment of citizens,
right,
involving the police. So so I really want to play strings of justice, but also serve that fight.
Mm-hmm. Right. And reality is, music is the healer for everything that we do. It brings people together as well, like you said, and fight the causes that we're fighting for. And, I think what you're doing and what you've implemented has been amazing. And I'm glad that you're out there making sure that people understand that how this affects you and how it can affect other people, but you're doing it in a different way, in a different format. So talk a little bit, though, about some of your amazing concerts and locations and people you've been around and some of the stars you have also served and have done music for.
Yes. So going back, I would say to my college time was some of my first major performances, or after college, being able to back Kenny G and Dinah Ross. Those are some of those early on professional experiences that I had in backing them in ensemble. And I also was able to play for celebrities like Danny Glover, then people like Amari Hardwick, Viola Davis. I did Kirk Franklin's 10th wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
Which was early on. That would be some ways back, probably closer to during college. And I just a lot of collaborations. I remember backing Donnie McClurkin on his live album in Virginia Beach. That's the album that was really, really highly received, called Psalms, Hymns, and Spiritual Songs. He has Total Praise on it, and all those songs are on. And I've had some great experiences, but the ones I'm having now, they're just amazing. As soon as I arrived at Atlanta, pre-COVID, I had less than 2 weeks, and I met members of 112 and running. Yes, and Jay Holiday and Little Zane and Q Parker, is actually one of my friends, and like Ronnie DeVoe from Belle Biv and DeVoe, and I just feel like I'm in the most amazing place.
You absolutely are. You're definitely soaring some more. You've been spreading your wings out for years, but now you are absolutely taking those big leaps and more soaring, and people being able to be around more people who are in the industry. And I think that's amazing. And then I applaud you for that, and congratulations, because you sound very excited about it, and you should be. You absolutely should be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I always ask this question with all my guests, and the number one question I ask is, what would you do and what would you tell a person who would be interested in getting into this type of business or this industry? What would the words of encouragement be that you would provide them?
I would say to anybody, come in with the maximum vision and maximum creativity. That's the first thing I would say, because if you come in with any kind of a limitation, you're going to stop yourself short of your goals, of the future that you see. So because I'm always a visionary. My mom raised me to be a visionary. My wife and I, we're always visionaries, always looking for the next level, and how can we reach more people. That would be the first thing. And then to study. Nowadays you have you can go to jam sessions. I've gone to thousands and thousands of jam sessions. Matter of fact, I just went to one, I want to say even 2 weeks ago here in Atlanta because it doesn't stop, Jam sessions are real. We have these things called the master classes where you can be in the presence of like Winter Marsalis, or in one case I was in presence of Regina Carter. She gave a jazz master class, jazz violinist, Regina Carter at Juilliard during my learning period. And also find, scholarships come in handy. Also investing in yourself. Right. But just I guess I'm talking to both kids and adults, but just going for it,
Right, but the key is that you're making them. What I like what you said earlier is the fact that people have to have a vision and understand what they're doing and why they're doing it, and then there's all those other pieces that come with it because like I said, you want to stay out there, you want to stay relevant, you want to learn, and having several mentors in that type of business that I would believe is very necessary because you're constantly learning and you're always going to change in this type of industry. So your advice I think is very important that people understand, but I definitely think it's important that, obviously you're younger and you're really interested that you take those steps to staying in school and learning and doing and reading music and understanding all the pieces that come with it. And it's not just about playing and hanging out. It's really, truly embracing it the way that you've embraced it so that you can continue to flourish all through your life and continue to do the work that you're doing. Because I know when you talked a little earlier, you talked about being an engineer as well. And so when you looked at being an engineer, was that going to be your drawback if you decided not to continue with being a violinist?
Yes, it was definitely going to be the fallback. And I'd already figured out the schools that were the top in both music and engineering. And I had it mapped out whether plan A happened, plan B happened, that I would figure it out,
Wow. Well, we're glad that you decided to go with plan A and not plan B. So
thank you.
We definitely appreciate that. So, Richmond, why don't you tell the listeners about what events you may have coming up or any other programs that you have that you're working on?
Sure. Yes. So the newest thing is, let's talk about music out there worldwide. I have a new EP that I released since the quarantine called Hymns for Botham, which features the title song Hymn for Botham, written for Botham John, killed by police officer Amber Geiger in Dallas. So there's that material. There's going back, there's a hip hop CD, 2019 CD called That Violin Up. This is more hip hop jazz. You're going to be playing a song from 2017, I believe 17 CD called Finally. And latest performance-wise, I've just got you'll see me various places in Atlanta, but I just got a weekly opportunity at Sage Restaurant, which is here on the north side of Atlanta, and it's a great restaurant. And as a musician, you always, again, back to the vision, you always envision the largest thing. So you want to be booked on the biggest day. And so I actually got Saturdays. Okay. So I'll be playing every Saturday.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure that they're excited about having you coming on board. So that's great.
Yes, indeed.
Well, you definitely have a lot of things going on, but if somebody would like to reach out to you or be able to purchase your CDs, could you give them that information? Why don't you tell our listeners how to find you?
Sure. You can visit richmondpunch.net. You can add Violin Richmond on Instagram or Twitter. Richmond Punch is also on LinkedIn. And the CDs, a lot of the merchandise is available at richmondpunch.net /merch.
All right. Well, you guys heard it live from Richmond Punch. I really appreciate you coming on this evening and spending some time with me because, excuse me, like I said, it's been exciting. I've been wanting to have you on the show. And again, for those who don't know, this is my first artist on board here this evening. So it's as a special edition show. I'm just so glad that Richmond had the time because, I know he's very busy, whether we have the pandemic or not. So again, sir, thank you so much for coming on and spending your time with us this evening.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to more. And I want to thank your Resource for Success podcast and Kimberly McLemore for doing this. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, and thank you. And for everyone this evening, before we end, I'm definitely going to be playing, like Richmond said, we're going to hear his song called Finally, but I'm going to use that as the outro for this evening instead of doing my normal ending of the show. But I also want to remind everybody that we are here every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. We are on 12 different platforms, so there's no reason that you cannot hear this show, whether you heard it tonight or you want to do the replay tomorrow or any other day. If you would like to be a special guest on this show, all you need to do is reach out to me by sending an email to KimberlyWSBILC@gmail.com, or you can also go on to my Facebook page at www.wsbilc.com and request to be on the show. We are filling slots for 2021. There is nothing available for this year. I'm already halfway through next year, so please, if you're truly interested and you want to be a part, please make sure that you reach out to me sooner than later. And also, we would love to have your donations to the show. All donations go for the support of the show and the program, as well as our Purple and Pink throwback fundraiser that we have every year, which supports breast cancer awareness and domestic violence awareness. And as I always remind people, for those who don't know, I am a domestic violence survivor, so it's very important to me that we help those people within the community who are helping those families and those mothers and children and fathers that need assistance from being abused, and of course the continuous research of breast cancer awareness. So 50% of our proceeds will go to a breast cancer awareness organization, as well as the 50% will go to domestic violence. And we collaborate every year with Move with T, which is a gentleman named Tarek Coles, who is also a part of this event with me. We've collaborated for the last several years, and we were excited that we will be having another event coming up here in the next couple months. But please go to the www.wsbilc.com and donate to our cause, so we can make sure that we can, like I said, continue to support our amazing business owners as well as support our awareness organizations. So again, I thank you all for listening to the show this evening. And like I said, I'm going to give you a special treat and listen to this music from Richmond Punch called Finally. Good night, everyone.